Hey all, so this is the second edition of the video. In the first one, I showed how you can run Interpreter as a Windows service by having an embedded Tomcat. In that one, you had a jar file, but the problem was the property files which contain the path of the WAR files was inside the jar. So you need to have a WinRAR or a WinZip to unzip the jar, change the property file, and then put it back in. What in this release, in the updated release, what you have is you have a jar file which is in the main folder, and you have the property file outside in the same folder. Just ensure that wherever you have your jar file, you have the same property file as well. If you want to look inside the property file, initially there were these keys or attributes. Certain new keys has been added. The first one is the HTTP port or the port on which the Tomcat runs. You can have multiple WAR files loaded in this. If you want to have 3 or 4, just have war_file_2 equals to the context name. Context name is basically the same name as the WAR file name, and the path of the WAR file, including the WAR file name with the .war as well. If you want to host this Tomcat or the application in an SSL port, ensure you have a key called is_SSL equals Y, and you have these attributes. Mention the secure port that you need to run. You have your certificate in this path, and you point that the certificate path over here. Whatever TLS, whether it's TLS or TLS 1.2, you put it over here. Once this is done, your application is configured to be run on SSL on port 9090. If you don't want to run, if you want to remove all of them, you can remove it, and the application will run only on HTTP port. So again, you have your jar file over here. You have your property file over here. You can have your WAR files either in this folder or in a different folder. Just ensure that wherever your WAR files are there, your path is also configured accordingly. Once this is done, ensure your SPC is also correctly in place for your Windows service. Details on this would be there in part of the first video. So what you're going to do is just go to your command prompt, ensure you run it as an administrator. So you type command over here, right click, run as an administrator. Once that is done, you can actually create a service. And creating the service, as I showed last time, this is the way you need to create a service. Is to create the service name, and the bin path points to the twin_svc host.exe. You paste it over here and you create it. You see service create service success. To see whether the service is created successfully or not, you go to your services.msc, go to your service, and you see your service file is running over here, right? Or rather, it's installed. To start your service, just go and click start over here, and your service starts. So what happens is you would see a couple of folders getting created over here. The first one being temp. So the jar file takes the relevant WAR files, whatever is configured in this properties, creates a temp folder, and extracts the WAR inside the temp folder, right? And if you go inside the temp folder, all the WAR files that you had mentioned, you can ignore the work folder over here. Just ensure that all your WAR files are extracted. Traditionally, wherever your Tomcat or JBoss is, the library becomes the class path. But here you do not have a library folder for Tomcat or JBoss. So you go inside the application, you go inside webinf and classes, and this becomes your class path. So whatever property files you want to put, you have it over here. Ensure the relevant property file goes into the relevant webinf classes. For example, in my WDB connector, there's again a classes folder, and inside that I have my property files. So once this is done, your application is good to go. So main things in this video, one is the jar file and the property file, which is outside. Ensure your jar file and property files in the same folder, and SSL related details, which is part of the property files where you can configure to run it on a secure port. So yeah, that's about it.